Good morning, morning. How is everybody? We're
Hey,
good.
hey,
Good morning.
hey.
Good morning.
Welcome back to our second part of our healthy relationships live stream. We're here with the PI team.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, morning, morning. I missed you guys last time.
You
Yeah,
did.
Yeah, we did miss you.
Well,
Great talk from my director, TFS Karen
okay,
Cole.
catch me up real quick.
Jason, want to take that?
we
Go ahead, Art.
we
So the
talked
first,
about three key points, right? We talked about the respect, communication,
And trust.
and trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got a special guest this week. George, you want to introduce her?
Well, yeah. If you haven't met her already, we are in store for a treat. We have one of our behavioral health therapists today, Alyssa Martinez, and she is a LMFT licensed clinician and our DVSA behavioral health therapist. Is that right, Alyssa?
Yes, happy to
All
be
right.
here. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me.
Of course, we're really grateful to have you guys. We know how busy you guys are, and uh, sometimes things like this really take a backseat to getting somebody in the office that really can use your support. So we really appreciate you carving out the time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for having me. And I wanted to thank you all for all of the work that you're doing and bringing to light these relationship ideas and presenting it in a way that I saw last week's presentation, and I really loved listening to all the good stuff that you guys had to talk about. So thank you again for having me.
Well, I humbled myself and realized that I was not a relationship expert. It took some years to realize that. I finally, realized. So we got the professional on board, right? We got the expert on board.
Yeah, so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the behavioral health department, the domestic violence sexual assault therapist here. And so I wanted to highlight that this month, February, is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So I wanted to kind of apply those three key concepts of communication, trust, and respect to highlighting the awareness for this month, teen dating violence, and wanted to introduce a statistic that one in every three teens, and even more so here in this community, will experience some type of abuse by their partner in their relationship before they become adults. And by abuse, I mean physical, sexual, emotional, some type of abuse. And so it's important that we talk about it and communicate about, how to spot the warning signs of what a healthy versus unhealthy versus abusive relationship looks like, and also talk about how relationships are on a spectrum, and you could go from healthy to unhealthy and then potentially abusive without even really noticing that it went from here to here without really noticing that middle of the spectrum. And then talk about some warning signs, and then talk about how we can set healthy boundaries and how we can care for ourselves. So, kind of wanted to bring some of those things to light.
I think you're
Uh,
muted, George.
yeah, I forgot. Like I said, I've never used the mute button before. I think all that stuff is important and equally important. The first thing that came to my head when you mentioned the healthy to unhealthy to abusive was that some of us, especially when we're talking about our youth, it might just be normal where that's the way a relationship, that's the direction they should go. Is that fair to say, or am I not being fair?
That it should go from healthy to unhealthy to abusive, or
Yeah, maybe that's the relationships that we've seen. That's how it is.
Yes. So it's
That's
important to
normal.
Yeah, it definitely could look like that. Growing up, you could see, unhealthy patterns and tendencies, behavior that you might think are normal, but then talking about and learning about how to prevent some of those behaviors from happening in your own relationship will be important for you not to go down that same road. So changing those patterns, just acknowledging them, recognizing that, that's unhealthy, and then figuring out how you can kind of change things up for the next generation as well. Yeah.
Talking a little bit about it, when they're youngsters, sometimes whether it's male or female, sometimes they're just trying to please because they don't know better, right? Is that young, how can you say, puppy love, right? And being able to establish good habits or good relationships is vital at that age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And how to determine how, that puppy love feels to you, and how to communicate what that is with maybe someone that you're dating. And how communication, one of those key points, is really important, that you're open and honest with that person that you're dating, so that you can start defining what your boundaries are. So determining what something healthy looks like, and then communicating that with your partner, with your relationship. And so, yeah, and I think sometimes when we see something in our family that, looks normal, and then we go out into the world and we have a relationship that looks the same, and then we run across something like this, or maybe, you're a parent, caregiver, auntie, or, a support in a youth's life, and you're watching this, and you're, seeing some of the warning signs in that relationship, then, you can kind of point it out, talk about it, because some of these things just need to be openly discussed. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to touch on what it looks like for a relationship to go from healthy to unhealthy, and talking about how last week you guys touched a little bit on like equality, and what equality looks like in terms of, having someone make more decisions than the other person in a relationship. And so in a healthy relationship, both people have mutual understanding. And then in an unhealthy relationship, it goes from the mutual to one person primarily making the decisions in a relationship. And that's just one aspect of what it looks like to have that. Another thing that a healthy relationship versus unhealthy relationship could look like is going from spending time together but being happy apart, to maybe spending only time together and not having your personal time apart from one another. And how that can easily be blurred, because as a youth, as a teen, you want to spend as much time as you can sometimes with that person that you have that new relationship with, right?
We have a comment in the chat. How do you conflict the cultural norms you were taught if they go against what your personal viewpoint is, if they are in conflict?
Is that for me? That question for me?
Yes.
Okay. So repeat that again. How do you combat your cultural norms you were taught if they go against what your personal viewpoint is, if they are in conflict? So I think it's important to identify what cultural norms might be healthy versus unhealthy, and realizing what you deserve in a relationship, which is respect and trust and honesty. And so I think it really depends on establishing what unhealthy versus unhealthy is when we're talking about cultural norms.
Mm-hmm.
I think also a lot has to do with where was your initial education, what in the home, what did trust look like? What did that normal trust look like, or what did that communication, what did those things look like when you were first introduced to those? Because like you were saying, these teens that go out into the world and they continue this cycle, but they learn this cycle of this normacy and say, okay, this is what was happening in my home, then this feels normal to me. So and break, like you're saying, you can break that cycle.
Mhm. Definitely. Yeah. Because I'm sure growing up, we had, good examples to follow versus not so great examples to follow, and choosing, which example that you would like to look more like, and finding out how you can, take the road of setting those healthy boundaries for yourself and your relationship. It's going to be important. Yeah.
I think also sometimes a lot of it is also culture that we grew up with, right? Like what's the old saying? Like especially in a woman's castle is a house. The guy takes care of everything outside, right?
Mhm.
Right. So a lot of it I think is culture or that plays a big part of that.
Mhm. Yeah. And go ahead, Marissa.
And I was just going to say, even in our relationships, not just, teen dating, but with our family, our friends, our own children, just growing up in traditional ways and how that can affect all your relationships. It really shows. And, we may have not learned the best way. So, finding those little tips or tricks or learning how to deal with it, or relearning what that looks like in a healthy relationship.
Mhm. Yeah. Identifying what wasn't healthy in your family, and then, moving forward to just be educating ourselves on what it looks like to change things up is important. But first you have to know what is unhealthy. What does that look like? What are some warning signs that I might be in an abusive relationship as a teen? So there's different warning signs to look out for when we're talking about, this unhealthy relationship that could, potentially end up abusive. So some of the warning signs include things like checking if your partner's checking your phone, your email, social media accounts without your permission. So setting that boundary, in terms of, what you're willing to accept and not accept. But if someone is doing that without your permission, then that's kind of overstepping that boundary in that sense. So that's a warning sign. And it's not saying that it has gone abusive, just keeping an eye out for those type of things, because maybe they didn't have that healthy boundary setting at home. So they're kind of displaying what they know in that relationship, but making sure that you're able to say, I don't feel comfortable with that. And bringing it to the relationship, and them respecting what you're saying. And I don't, no, it's okay to say no. And I don't feel that that's something that I want. And that person respecting it is important. Also, something like putting you down frequently, especially in front of other people. So if they're constantly making negative remarks about you, or any negative remarks, and, especially in front of other people, that's not okay. So noticing, if that's happening, and realizing that's not respectful, that's not something that I want, in my relationship, even though I might have seen it at home. It's not okay. Doesn't make me feel good, and it's not respectful. Also isolating your partner from friends, family, and that could be like physically, financially, or emotionally. So if your partner is just wanting you to spend time with only them, and not loving that you have other people in your life that are supportive of you, and sometimes that could look like manipulating, and sometimes that could look like, well, I'm having a really bad day today, so I really want you to stay here with me, and not recognizing that you are an individual and you have your own needs and care for yourself. And these are just some warning signs to look out for. Extreme jealousy or insecurity, that's also really big to pay attention to. If someone is getting jealous of the time that you spend with your friends, or your healthy relationships with others or family, school, work, if they're getting jealous of that time, then just noticing it.
Mm-hmm. I always think too that when talking about teen dating, you as parents, we want to be involved. I feel like healthy relationships is, knowing their family, like whoever their kids are dating, their family, and having them over and out, and like just the whole aspect of, as a family tie, showing them like, oh wow, these are healthy, ways to go about it, just so a little bit more to, how the relationships are going, because you never know.
Yes, I love that point. Staying connected to your teen's partner and perhaps their family, so that you can stay involved and be connected. And even if your teen or your youth is dating or starting a relationship with another person, and their upbringing isn't as healthy as maybe yours or healthier, just kind of recognizing what that looks like for the other person that you didn't raise or that you didn't help give care to.
Just a time check, Alyssa. We have about 15 more minutes, and I know you gave us a list of a lot of information. I want to make sure that we cover it all, and everything is really interesting. So if there's things you want to cover, just keep us moving. But this is all really really important. Really good stuff.
Yeah. So I've been incorporating things as we go, so that works. A couple more warning signs I wanted to point out, just because I think it's important that we identify what unhealthy looks like and when to kind of talk about it, because that's the theme of this month, is talk about it. Another one is any form of physical harm. So last table talk, you guys were discussing fighting fair and how do we argue, and the fact that anger is a normal emotion that we all experience, and how do we deal with that anger while we're in a relationship and we might be really upset at the other person. And so one of the warning signs to look out for is just any type of physical harm whatsoever. It could be just a little push, and it could start off like that, and then it could lead to other things. And no physical harm is ever acceptable. Possessiveness or controlling behavior is another warning sign. So just them maybe making most of the decisions, or being possessive over your time, or your you being there. And then also pressuring or forcing your partner to have sex. And I think, with teens kind of not knowing how to handle an intimate relationship, let alone like a physically intimate relationship, perhaps, and maybe this is your first time experiencing this type of intimacy, and not knowing, oh, do I need to do this? Can I say no? If I don't have sex with them, are they going to feel like they're not cared about? And so really knowing that it's not okay to ever feel pressured or forced, that you can say no if you don't feel comfortable, setting that boundary and having it be respected. So that's really important as well.
Could you? I know you talked about warning signs, and I have youngsters. If I picked up on these, how or what would be the I guess a safe avenue to approach my kids of talking about it?
Yeah. So, I have kids also, and from my own experience and my professional experience, it's important to be transparent about things as they come, and really recognizing that all relationships have challenges, and maybe talk about something, that you've experienced or someone that has experienced with your teen, so that they can see that you're opening up a little bit about maybe what you've been through or someone that has been through, and maybe talk a little bit about how, wow, I just heard this statistic that 1 in every 3 teens has experienced some type of abuse in their relationship before they become adults. And so I kind of just wanted to ask you, do you know anybody or have you experienced any of this? And just being open, honest, real. Kids like real, right? Real talk, and just being able to watch you model that opening up yourself will help them feel like they can be more open as well.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing the information that you're sharing with us and all these warning signs, I'm just thinking about encouraging the parents or guardians or teachers, and because I'm thinking of these delicate little children, these 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds that are in these really deep, intimate relationships that are very, very valid. But it's us as parents and teachers that need to also know these warning signs, to have the confidence to maybe confront or to intervene, or whatever the situation, to get involved with our children, to say, hey, I'm noticing that there's some warning signs going on, and how to intervene without being combative and name calling or pushing that kid away, because the relationship could that person can move them away from you too, even parents, discrediting and things like that. So that's what I'm thinking as you're sharing this information, is giving our parents and teachers the confidence and the education to intervene.
Right. And knowledge is power. And so
Yeah.
knowing what to look for is really important, so that you can
Right.
open up that conversation for our youth.
And
Yeah.
and also how to tread lightly, delicately, because you ask a kid how they're doing and they're always doing fine. Oh, that didn't happen that way. Or no, they're lying. Or so just
Mhm.
being confident in that you are the leader, or you are the adult, and you do have the knowledge, and you are sure, and that you can confront the situation.
Mhm. And it kind of goes along the same lines of what Marissa was saying about staying connected, and just kind of, taking a glimpse at what they're viewing, what they're being exposed to, whether it be TikTok or any of the social media platforms that teens are very involved in as well, and just staying connected. And then maybe, having open conversation about, whatever it is that they might be exposed to. And that also comes to, how they're having a relationship online. So if they're, online dating with, their partner, what that looks like as well. And that's another boundary that, you as a teen, or you as a parent to, or a caregiver to a teen, can address. What does that boundary for you look like? Do you feel comfortable posting things about your relationship online? Or do you feel comfortable posting that you're in a relationship online? What does that mean? What does that look like? And when it comes to teen dating violence, the awareness of that, is your partner becoming jealous of who you're adding as a friend, or who you're following as a friend? And so coming up with what you would like to set as a boundary as a teen, and then communicating that with your partner. It's okay to not be okay with certain things. And it's okay that people have different views of what they feel is okay in that same relationship. But as long as it's a mutual respect for each other is what's important.
I think being a parent and being honest, because I do have girls and I have a son, being okay, because there are going to be some tough answers, right? Are you in a relationship? It might even come up that they're being intimate. If you want to be, like you said, transparent with their relationship, you got to be able to say, okay, if I want my kids to communicate with me and to be open with me, these are questions or these are stuff that we need to talk about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And learning how to be a parent and still having that balance between, being able to hear some of the things that you don't necessarily want to hear
I know.
as a caregiver and as that support person in that kid's life.
Sorry.
We're getting some weather, aren't we?
Mhm.
Well, we're live.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Even what you were saying, Art, even trying to communicate that when it's an unhealthy relationship, and then you see the outcome of it, you know, without trying to get to the outcome of what you see as we as parents and going through it, and then we see that it's like, how do we stay away from letting them know the outcome before we let them know, hey, first of all, I love you, this is the things we went through as a kid, and I've seen I've seen some warning signs with you and different things like that, without trying to get to that outcome of what is really gonna transfer transfer to whatever the kids are going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we don't want them to be hiding things.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then they will.
Mhm. Yeah, so just constantly having, open communication about what they are going through, and modeling for them what does it look like to have a healthy conflict, for instance. Like, okay, if I'm angry, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to allow myself time to kind of process my feeling. And then I'm going to think about how I want to communicate what I'm going to say to my partner. And then I'm going to talk about it in a healthy way. And then I'm going to listen to what they have to say. So not just modeling that, but kind of talking to them. What does it look like in your relationship when there's anger? And that way allows them to kind of open up and be like, well, they do get, upset over small things. And then, oh, what do you mean by that? And just asking open-ended questions is a better way to have communication with a teen, especially when, how's your day? Good. Oh, what was good about your day? Asking open-ended questions is important as well when we're talking about, trying to guide our youth in a positive direction.
And I always think it's important to say too, is maybe you're not the best person to ask those questions, or you're not, maybe, they won't open up to you. So finding maybe that support, or, coming to IHC and talking with the counselor on some of those warning signs and just the basic concerns for prevention to help them, see a wider picture.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it's easier for a teen, a youth, to talk with a therapist, a provider here, to, share what's going on in their lives. And it's sometimes easier to talk to someone that's not your caregiver when it has to do with things that you're not confident that are going well for you in your life. Yeah.
We have one more comment. Teens are often still learning who they are and who they want to be. Being in a relationship can be confusing during that growth. So, thank you for commenting.
Yes. They're still learning about who they are, so it's important to give them that grace and, just the permission to try to learn about themselves while trying to give them those, in a bowling lane, you have those bumpers that you can put up. And so you can put those up and kind of let them veer a little off to the side. And then you're there as the bumper to be like, I'm going to go a little bit this way, so that you can kind of direct them, but they're not as influenced, or they don't absorb things as much as they do when they're young. They kind of have their own direction in mind as as they're growing. And so it's important that we're still there to be their bumpers, but not to be like they're full on, like when you're a toddler and you need that like full thing that makes the bowling ball go in straight on. Forgot what the assist that they use. So yeah.
Right. I felt like, Alyssa, I felt like every topic you brought up was its own discussion in itself.
Ah.
Like you did like a mini series, and then there was so many spin-offs of this conversation.
There is so much to talk about when it
Oh,
comes
yeah.
to, this topic and just, relationships with
Oh, yeah.
teens and, the unfortunate, violence that can happen. And we want to prevent things from happening as, they're getting into one of their first relationships when they're younger, so that doesn't carry on into the later years when they become, an adult, and then, have even more problems and just concerns with domestic violence and becoming a survivor and all of the trauma that happens in that toxic abusive relationship. And so it's you guys are doing a good job with preventing.
We're gonna have to bring her back.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to bring Miss Martinez back.
Yeah,
Especially
Art,
too.
if I may, on that note, Alyssa, I think in the last, I know we're over time, but in the last, 10 years that I've seen, the resources have just grown tremendously, from the strong-hearted women's coalition, Avelica, Sample Squall has a program. It seems like every tribe is doing their part to advocate and to support all types of domestic violence or abusive relationships, domestic violence, healthy relationships. So if these are things, if we're bringing up issues that you're concerned about, reach out to us. Alyssa's contacts on there, but also your tribe probably has something, if not a close tie to a resource. And if you feel more comfortable reaching out, just ask a question. Hey, I'm noticing this. How do I do this? Or what? It seems like all of our tribes around here these days are doing their part. So I'm really proud of that. And good job with everybody doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also,
If there was any questions that you might have wanted to ask, we're always available here at Indian Health. You can get a hold of any one of us. If we need to get you to a resource here or maybe an outside resource, we're available to you. If you need to get a hold of Alyssa, even if you just want to ask her a question, we can make that happen for you. And
Yeah, we have a full team of behavioral health support and staff here, and we're all doing a lot of work, and so we're a team here. So we have a lot of professionals here to help out.
Awesome.
absolutely, that's good.
Miss Alyssa, thank you
Thank
for
you.
tuning in. Everybody that
Thank
tuned
you very
in.
much.
Jason, you want to read the last one? The Table Talk made possible by.
We are made possible by the County of San Diego HHS Mental Health Services Act, and we appreciate everything they do for us and allow us to do. So we are trying new ways to get out to individuals that might be in rural areas. Tune into our podcast. It's called What About Life? So we are trying different things to get information out to those that possibly can't get on our Facebook Live.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. PI team, Miss Alyssa, thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Alyssa,
Thank you
very
guys so
much.
much.
Thank you.